Rugby World Rankings, folks, for November the 7th, 2022. November is such a busy month with all the rugby. Means the Rugby World Rankings are kind of all over the shop. But we're going to go through quickly who's up and who's down. What are the possible results for the upcoming week in terms of who's going to place where. And you guys can let us know how fair or not you reckon the rankings are. Ireland are still one, and they've extended their lead with their win over the South Africans, 19 points to 16. It was a tight one, but it's kind of an endorsement into Ireland's number one spot in the world at the moment, that they did manage to get that kind of pressure win. So they're up from 90.03 to 90.63. So well done to the Irish. The French are still in second with their narrow win over the Aussies, but haven't moved any spots in terms of their score in the Rugby World Rankings because the gap between them and the Australians was too high. And the All Blacks have taken third spot from the South Africans. So with their big win in Wales, up from 87.64 to 88.64. So, about as high as Ian Foster's had the All Blacks for a wee while. They were kind of setting all new lows. But with the Rugby Championship title, they're kind of creeping their way back into New Zealand media is not talking about his coaching future stages at the moment. South Africa down into fourth and lowest. They've been for a while, to be honest, but they do have the start, the toughest of the starts to the tours of all the Rugby Championship teams, man. Like, they've literally got the 1 and 2 teams. They got France next, and they just started with Ireland. So, yeah, tough draw. But that's just the way it goes. It's kind of a risk reward, right? If South Africa had won that game, then they would have gone number one in the world. So that's just how tight things are at the moment with those top four. I say top four because with England's loss, they kind of move out of that top team bracket, which it was as of the last World Rankings, to being closer to the kind of chasing pack. Like England were right up there with the All Blacks, who were in fourth at that time, but with their home loss to the Argentinians, they've dropped to 84.45, and Argentina with that win are up to 83.01. So Argentina's kind of so starting to chase down some of the really top-ranked teams, man. I mean, they're still a wee way away, but Cheika seems to have them moving in the right direction. Kind of pleasing stuff. It's as high as they've been in recent times. Anyway, the Wallabies, despite not losing any points, have been passed by Argentina, so they have dropped. And Scotland, with their win over Fiji, did take a little bit of a points gain, so they have gone above Wales, who returned to a kind of familiar ninth. In these videos enough to know that there was a while where Wales were just stuck in ninth for seemingly months and months, and it's back to ninth with that home loss. So we'll see if Wales is able to get back on this side of the whiteboard anytime soon. There is a gap between them and the Japanese. The Japanese didn't play, but they are playing England this coming week. So then you've got Fiji, Italy, Georgia, and Samoa all on 74 point something. Very little between those sides. Italy obviously gave Samoa a bit of a hiding, so they've gone up to 12th. Fiji, despite losing, have gone up because Samoa dropped below them. There's more games on this weekend, which will likely see those teams move around a bit. And then these two teams played each other, which was another one that's kind of pleasing to see how accurate are the world rankings. Well, the fact that Tonga beat Spain 40 points to 6 would maybe show you that sometimes teams are worth a bit more than their world ranking would suggest. So, Tonga has moved up to 1. Spain has gone down 1. Outside of the whiteboard, you've got Romania 17, Uruguay, Portugal, USA, Chile, Canada, Hong Kong, and Namibia down to 24th. And then one of the more active teams at the moment with the Rugby World Cup qualifying for 2023 is Kenya down at 34th. Remember, Kenya got a bit of a hiding by the US, and Hong Kong got a bit of a hiding by Portugal in that race for that final spot at the Rugby World Cup. So in all likelihood, it'll be between the US and Portugal for that final one. And those teams are 19th and 20th, respectively, on the rankings. So, that kind of makes sense that they're two of the teams really kind of battling it out. How might things go this weekend? Well, Ireland's playing Fiji. If they lose it, they could potentially drop their number one spot. But if you're the number one team in the world, you probably shouldn't be losing at home to the 11th ranked team. So in all likelihood, Ireland retain number one. Even if France beats South Africa, that's going to be a real ding-dong battle. I mean, France could drop second spot to the South Africans if South Africa goes and gets a win. So it's another week where South Africa is aiming to kind of leapfrog the team that just took the spot from them. New Zealand could go fourth if they lose, but I don't think they will go up into second if they beat Scotland. I don't think they're going to get enough points from it, but it might depend if... I think they'll be below South Africa or France. Whoever wins that one will probably still still be there. So yeah, we'll kind of have to see how that matchup goes. Argentina with a big win could potentially pass England. Australia could drop if they lose, but I don't think they'll catch Argentina if they win, because they're not going to get many points from Italy based on how close the world rankings are. Scotland could drop back to 9th if they lose to New Zealand. Wales, they could go up if they can get a win over Argentina. But like I said, there's so many games on that one result might affect another. So there's a lot of different permutations. I don't think Fiji can catch Japan. Japan could pass Wales if they get a win and Wales lose. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that is possible. But in all likelihood, I mean, for the main position that matters, it's probably going to be Ireland at number 1 next week. The top 3 may change a little bit. Other games that are on, you've got the Tongas taking on Chile, Spain's taking on Namibia, Romania against Uruguay. There's plus those Rugby World Cup qualifying games that are still to go. So yeah, there's a lot going on in November. It's a very good time to be a rugby fan. Now, something I get asked a fair bit is, how would these teams rank if you were to apply your power rankings, which I do for like the URC and Super Rugby and whatnot. How would they apply to the power rankings? And it's a good question. I've had a chat with the folks over at Planet Rugby about doing just that thing. Planet Rugby, if you have never gone to the website, it's a great news site for all rugby news. When I'm tending to look for the lineups for the upcoming games and some of the opinion pieces, I'm a pretty regular reader of Planet Rugby, so I'm going to write up a piece basically to see how the power rankings would go if you're to look at like the 22 results for the Tier 1 nations. I'll go over it quickly here, but feel free to check over at Planet Rugby. I'll put a link down in the description to that article. But it's a little bit different. I've got France at number 1, taking the spot from Ireland, essentially because France have gone 8 from 8. Now, they didn't have the toughest of tours. Like, they went to Japan instead of going to bloody New Zealand, and they played 2 games instead of 3. But France are unbeaten. They're the only unbeaten team in 2022. So for 2022, still got France at number 1, even though they weren't all that convincing against the Wallabies. Ireland's at number 2. The only games they've dropped is 1 away in France and 1 away in New Zealand. So there's certainly, they haven't lost any kind of non-tough games, if that's a really bad way to express that. Ireland have only lost like the toughest of the tough games, and they've won some bloody tough ones as well. So a bit harsh to put them in 2. But as I said, the French are undefeated. I got New Zealand at 3, which matches the world rankings. Not been that convincing, but they are Rugby Championship champions. South Africa I've also got number 4, which matches the world rankings. They're a bit of a weird side at the moment. They can push the number 1 side, Ireland, away from home within 3 points. Also lose a home game to Wales, and they got pushed by Wales in that first game, if you remember back in that series way back in July. They went 50-50 with the All Blacks in the Rugby Championship. So there's not much between them, but still in 4th. Argentina, with the power rankings, come out in 5th. They've got a 50-50 record under Checker, which is actually pretty class, seeing as, I know they got 2 of their wins over Scotland, which is, based on the world rankings, not like the toughest opponent they could have faced. They didn't go to New Zealand like the Irish did, but Argentina's record's not bad. Not bad. They're setting some new records in good ways, but they're still a team that could drop 50 points in a game against New Zealand after beating them the previous week, right? It literally happened. England in 6th. Their up and down year in 2022 has them a little bit more down than up. I mean, they did get that win over the Aussies away, but yeah, it's just been a bit lackluster. So 6th is a kind of middling result. Scotland, interestingly, pipped Australia in the power rankings. Like, Scotland has got I think a 5-5 record, 5 wins, 5 losses, albeit the most recent one over a Tier 2 Fiji, where you could argue Australia's had tougher opponents. But I think Australia's like 4-7 in terms of their wins and losses. So again, Australia's that real Jekyll and Hyde team that can push a top of the table French team within a point and then just find a way to lose it. I mean, it's hard to judge them for it, because it was a pretty... No one was expecting them to get as good as they went, but I mean, against the All Blacks, they've struggled. Good win over Argentina over a while back, and then a massive loss to them. So, yeah, real Jekyll and Hyde team, so maybe that's reflecting the power rankings too. Wales probably just scrape into 9th. I could have ranked Italy above them, to be honest, because Wales, I think, have only had 2 wins, but Italy's had, I think, 4, but over Tier 2 teams. They've only had 1 win over a Tier 1 team, and that was Wales. So, yeah, it's kind of tough when you're getting that far down. And then Japan, the last of the Tier 1 teams, just haven't really played enough games to judge. But, I mean, they pushed the All Blacks close in their most recent game. They pushed the French close in one of their games, obviously at home. It's kind of hard to credit them too much for an honourable defeat, because a defeat is still a defeat. But, yeah, that just begs the question of, can we get Japan some more games, please? Because it seems like they can do it. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. What do you reckon? Who would you have as number 1? Do you reckon it's France, or do you reckon it's Ireland at the moment? Do you see the Springboks as a worse team than the All Blacks at the moment? Obviously, the All Blacks did win the Rugby Championship. Are the Pumas as good as 6th, or do you think we can see them dropping? Are Wales as bad as 9th? You guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.